Today we are looking at the reason why the United States of America has borrowed from Chinese Belt and Road Initiative playbook, why China's influence in the continent of Africa has challenged the United States of America, Europe, and other countries that are vying for the continent. In this episode, I will be looking on why the United States of America pledges $1 billion to refurbish railways in Angola, its first major infrastructural investment on the continent of Africa in decades. I will also look at the reason why the Lobito corridor project will be the test for whether Washington can compete with Beijing to build ties and also secure resources in the continent of Africa. I will look into some geopolitical aspect in this particular video. I will ask you to watch this video to the end because we shall be covering information like never before seen. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. The United States is trying to push back on Chinese influence in Africa and betting on Angola as a test case. For decades, China has bankrolled major projects in Africa, including ports, railways, and also power dams under its multi-trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative, while the United States of America largely overlooked the continent, but Washington is no longer staying on the sidelines. If you look at other aspects, the United States has pledged $1 billion to refurbish the Lobito Atlantic Railway, its first major project in Africa in decades, which will stretch 1,300 kilometers, that's about 808 miles, through mineral-rich Zambia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, to create a logistic corridor to the Atlantic port of Lobito in the neighboring Angola. If you look at the strategic option, Washington is also working with the European Union to build a new 800-kilometer rail line between Angola and Zambia. During his trip to Angola most recently, the United States Secretary of State Antony Bliken said that the railway investment was the biggest investment the United States has made in railways on the African continent in well over a generation. If you look at the United States, he went ahead to say, Mr. Blinken said the United States of America is all in into Africa. According to his own perspective, it is at the heart of our partnership for global investment and infrastructural work in Angola. Blinken pointed out, referring to the group of 7 initiatives led by the United States President Joe Biden to also mobilize over $600 billion globally for projects. Mr. Blinken said the investment in Angola will secure critical minerals supply chain that are also essential to the economic futures of all of our countries, based on his own analysis. The United States of America and its European allies want a share of the battery metals from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is the world's largest producer of cobalt. Zambia is also rich in copper and cobalt. Most of those materials are exported to China. If you look at that particular region, but China's economic influence in Angola runs deep. Beijing funded the oil-rich country's reconstruction following a 27-year war. If you look at other aspects ending in 2002, Angola has since received over $45 billion from Chinese lenders, more than a quarter of the Chinese total lending to African countries from 2000 to 2022. It was there that China pioneered oil-backed loans and also a way to access Chinese funding for infrastructure in what came to known as Angola's model. It was successful until oil price fell, making loan repayment expensive. Angola's president João Lourenço has promised to diversify the country's oil-dependent economy and reduce its reliance on China. According to Tang Xiaoyang, a professor and chair of the International Relations Department at Tsinghua University, who said that the Lobito corridor project was remarkable as the United States of America had not invested in such traditional infrastructure in Africa for many decades. It will be interesting to see how this infrastructure is implemented under the context of securing critical mineral supplies to the United States of America. However, the expert went ahead to say, he said that 2 years after the announcement of the plan to build the Lobito corridor, we have not yet seen much concrete progress on the ground, but mainly repeated political rhetoric. Cameron Hudson, a former U.S. official who is now a senior associate at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies Africa program, said that the U.S. appeared to be copying Chinese Belt and Road strategy. Beijing should be flattered as a way just to say imitation is the highest form of flattering, and the Lobito corridor takes a page straight out of Chinese Belt and Road playbook, according to that expert. Maybe what the United States of America's official will finally realize is that no one in Africa cares how the sausage gets made in Washington, only that it is made. But we should be careful. This project has been announced for quite some time and celebrated a dozen different ways by US officials, but 1 kilometer of railway has not yet been laid. Africa matters to both Beijing and Washington, according to that expert. It matters for reasons of United Nations vote for critical minerals, for investment potentials, and also for winning the goodwill of what will soon be the most populous region in the world. If you consider those aspects, Blinken's visit to Angola was part of a 4-nations tour of Africa that also took him to Cabo Verde, formerly Cape Verde, where Washington has promised to help in the nation's fight against trafficking at the time, and also with regards to other challenges faced by that particular country. He also visited Ivory Coast and Nigeria, key allies in West Africa, where the US is providing both financial and also military aid to confront challenges in those particular parts of the world. Antony Bliken's tour came shortly after Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi concluded his annual New Year's visit to the continent of Africa. Although the top US diplomat downplayed China's influence in Africa, it was hard to miss on the current of the competition during his trip. On January the 22nd, while responding to a question in the Ivory Coast on how Washington's proposition to African countries different from Beijing, Mr. Bliken said that the United States of America, the challenge is to show that we offer a good choice in a thinly veiled attack to China. Bliken said, when some countries lend a lot of money, for example, but is doing so create unsustainable debt, that's a problem. We don't want to do that. China has denied claim that it is burdening or trapping countries with loans they cannot repay. It also pointed that fingers at the United States domination multilateral financial institutions as well, and commercial creditors, which together accounts for more than 80% of sovereign debt for developing countries. According to Ken Opalo, an associate professor at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University, who said that China had long ago discovered the importance of paying attention to the continent of Africa and the general region at large. For 34 years, the Chinese foreign minister's first trip of the year had always taken him to Africa, and those visits were a way of strengthening commercial and diplomatic ties, that expert also pointed. However, the United States of America is catching up based on our own analysis. Over the last couple of years, the United States of America too has started sending high-level officials to the continent of Africa, and also this is in reaction to both competition from China and also admonitions from Africans that Washington does not treat its African counterparts with respect. Biden has tried to reverse course and mend ties in his approach to Africa after predecessor Donald Trump made headlines for his disregarding remarks about the continent of Africa at the time. The Lobito corridor project is certainly Washington's reactions to Chinese Belt and Road initiative. Historically, the United States of America and the European Union had sought to counter China's infrastructural loans to African countries. The Lobito project, if implemented, will demonstrate whether America and its allies can compete with China on this particular dimension. China, no doubt, has scaled the continent of Africa. China has invested incredibly to the continent of Africa, from dams to other infrastructure and a lot of other things, which has opened the African economic doors in several ways. We want to see what that particular Lobido will do in the continent of Africa, particularly in Angola, and if the United States is actually serious to take this project to compete with China. So far, we all shall be watching on why the United States is taking things out from the Chinese playbook. I want to thank you for watching. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.